So yes, here we go. We are in the game room and it's another year and it's time to do a video that I was supposed to do ages ago. Yes, it is the follow-up. I looked on the shelf and realised I saw the games there when I was doing the game room tour. I thought, I was supposed to do a video on those. Yes, it is the PGM 2, of course. Okay, you know the deal. I'm just going to sit down and just run through the system itself, you know, give you a bit of a boring backstory, bore the crap out of you for a little bit, and then we'll get to the actual games themselves. Okay, let's have a completely unnecessary introduction and let's take a look at the PGM 2. So yes, the follow-up to the PGM 1, the imaginatively called PGM 2 by IGS, which as you've probably seen, or hopefully you've seen it in my other video, they're a Taiwanese company that basically seek to sort of copy the success of SNK by having very similar model to the MBS, very similar hardware, same concept with the carts. And they were fairly successful in their own right, to be honest with you. They, by the end of 2005, they had quite a number of games. Some of their own franchises, which they sort of developed to almost perfection. They had some pretty good ones by the end of the life cycle of the PGM 1. And some of the big boys as well produced some pretty cool games on the system as well. So I would say it's relatively successful, and they followed the same concept, the same model with the PGM 2, but on a smaller scale, unfortunately. So they do have a couple of games of their own franchises, which they've got sequels, which you can probably see here already. But the big boys came in as well to produce a couple of games as well, which are pretty damn good. You know, but we'll get to games in a bit. But yeah, only 7 games altogether in the system, which is not a good showing really, unfortunately. But 5 of them are pretty cool, which I'm going to show you the 5 which I've got. The 2 games that I don't have are 2 puzzle games. I'm not really bothered about them. Maybe I'll pick them up, maybe I won't if I see them, maybe. But I'm not too fussed about them, to be honest with you. But why would I pick up this system in the first place? Well, I got this quite a few years ago, it was 2014. And I wasn't really planning to get it, but I saw it on a seller at Hong Kong Legend. So this dude used to sell a lot of the good hardware back in the day. And I was specifically looking at the CPS 3 hardware. And if you know the system, it's basically you've got the motherboard, you've got a cart, and you've also got the CD system as well. I was looking at it, it's at $250, $300, including shipping. I was like, a bit expensive, and I saw he had this one as well, very cheap. This one was only, for the whole kit you see here, was only $150, and very simple setup with the cart. I thought, you know, I'll give that one a go. Next time around I'll get the CPS3. Probably a poor choice because it did go up a hell of a lot in price. By the time I went back to him, he didn't have any more kits, unfortunately. So I had to get it another way. But that's a different story for a different day. But anyway, I got all this fantastic stuff here for, yeah, it's only 100, I think 140 including shipping. Not much. No one really cared about the system. To be honest with you, it's not really gone up that much. I doubt you have to pay much more than that for the systems. There's a lot of them. But you've got the card reader and you've got all the cards, which is nice. I don't know how difficult they are to get now, but that's a full set of cards for this particular game. But I'll get into this game later on, and we'll get into what the cards actually do when we talk about the games. But it's a very, very simple system. More reliable, I would say, from the PGM 1 as well, but the PGM 1 is a real pain in the arse, it really is. Always breaks down, especially the older revisions. The new one's not too bad, but the old revisions are terrible. But this one, I never had any problems. I've got about 3 motherboards of this. Never had any problems with any of them. And they seat really well as well. So the PGM 1, they can be a bit picky. You have to constantly reasserting the games to make sure it seats well. But this one, not a problem at all. Fantastic bit of kit. You got the slots here for obviously the card reader. This one, so you can have 2 machines hooked up together, or it could be the kick harness. And then also you've got the dip settings, you've got reset and volume, nothing much to it. Nice, easy, and that was what I was looking for at the time. So yeah, I'm happy with getting it, but I should have got the CPS3 really, shouldn't I? But let's go and have a look at the games anyway. That's why you're here. Let's take a look at the games.
Let's start off with Knights of Valor 2, New Legend. With the sheer number of Knights of Valor games on the first PGM board, yeah, the likelihood that it was going to return was pretty high. And of course this is the sort of definitive version of Knights of Valor 2, and it's definitely the game to play if you're a big fan of the series. From what I can tell, there's no major changes to the game from the PGM 1 version. All the 9 characters are there as you probably expect, and even the early levels as well look pretty identical to what you saw on the PGM 1. I was a little bit surprised that they didn't add additional characters and sort of take more advantage of this new hardware, but I guess this is a very early game, so they probably just rushed it out, just get something out there for people to play. Graphically it has improved, but nothing too dramatic. You don't really get a sense of this new hardware, but mind you, on the PGM 1 it looked pretty damn gorgeous, especially the later games. After multiple iterations they did sort of get the graphics down to almost perfection on the PGM 1. So I guess it's an early game, so they sort of, I'm not sure they put so much time into it graphically. I didn't really notice a big difference until much later on in the game, where some additional bosses started to appear and you got sort of additional routes and things like that. And also the sheer volume of characters and enemies on screen as well. It did feel that it sort of handled that better and there's less slowdown, and seemed to be more enemies on screen, a lot more happening, which is very cool. So this is definitely the definitive version to get. Yes, you knew it was coming. Very predictable. Knights of Valor 3. This was released 3 years after the previous game, and finally they actually made a brand new game with graphics to fit the new hardware. They included 2 distinct game modes. You've got this sort of standard story, which you're very familiar with from the previous games, and plus you've got like a boss rush mode, which is pretty cool because you can sort of grind out your characters, save them on your special card, and then you can fight some bosses. As you can see, they released 10 cards, each relating to each one of the playable characters. The cards just save your character from what I can see, and also allow you to unlock 2 of the characters in the main menu. Everything about this game just feels bigger than the previous versions, even down to the level selection. There just feels to be an overwhelming amount of different levels to choose from. And yes, this game is all about grinding. There are so many different bosses to beat, and so many levels to go through, so many pickups. It's all about grinding your way through these levels and building up your character. And that's not to mention the special levels as well, which get unlocked depending on how well you do against the end of level bosses. This is an absolutely massive game, a massive brawler. While it's really easy to pick up and play, I do feel like I'm just scratching at the surface of the game. Just the sheer volume of the pickups. Like before you had sort of one menu, here it sort of drills down into multiple menus of different pickups. Some of them I have no idea what these items are doing. So yes, this is a massive game. There's also more emphasis on the actual fighting technique of your characters as well. While it does feel a little bit less fluent than the other games, it's because there's more technique, there's more movesets, almost feels more like a fighter in many ways. And also, of course, you're building up your character as you go through the game, grinding it out. And once you've got all 4 players all hooked up, I can imagine this to be absolutely amazing brawler. Next up is another IGS IP. It is Oriental Legend 2. Unlike Knights of Valor, which they went for depth and detail, this one they've remained more true to the roots of the original PGM 1 game. They've kept it fun and simple, which is absolutely fine by me because it's one of my favourites. I've always preferred this one to Knights of Valor, to be honest with you. Maybe it's just because of the source material. I was always a big fan of the Monkey series, so maybe that's what it is. But it could also be the fact that visually, the colours are more vibrant. It's just a hell of a lot more fun. It's a lot more simple to play. Feels more arcadey as well. So that's probably why I prefer this one. This one again uses the card reader, very similar to Knights of Valor 3. They did release a set of cards for this one too, but unfortunately I don't have them. To think about it, I've not even tried the Knights of Valor cards. They probably do work with this game as well, because all you're doing is saving and unlocking 2 of the characters. So you've got 8 characters to choose from, or 10 if you've got one of these special cards. I need to check that out. While it might not appeal to some of the hardcore brawlers out there, for me, I just love the fact that they sort of doubled down on the humour and the cartoony element to the game. You know, the extended foot of Monkey or some of the special attacks. A lot more humour, a lot more colours, a lot more fun. That's what for me is all about these kind of games. Don't let my comments on the cuteness and the funness actually mislead you when it actually comes to gameplay. This is a very tight game. Excellent brawler. Technically it's very similar to something like Knights of Valor. The actual mechanics of the fighting, the way you sort of build up your combos, build up your character, very big similarities there, which I kind of think is important. It gives a bit of length and depth to the game that's needed to keep you entertained, otherwise it will come a little bit stale. Also, the variety of different characters and the 4-player aspect makes this a belter. We are down to the last 2 games, and now the big boys come out to play. We have got King of Fighters 98 or Ultimate Match Hero. Released just over 10 years after the original game, the amazing classic by SNK from the Neo Geo. It basically does a bit of a dream match on it, you know, adding all the characters that existed prior to 98, making them more playable, including some of the bosses. Also tweaking the gameplay a little bit, you know, just slight improvements here and there, and customizing the gameplay as well. So no longer are you restricted to the advanced and the extra modes. You can sort of make a balance of something in between, which is the ultimate mode effectively. From what I can see, it's identical to the Taito X1 version that was released a year before this one. So I believe this one just must have been a sort of Chinese localization game. So it's identical, apart from obviously the hero in the title. Even the typo with the light punches there when you switch it to English. So, but the cool thing about this one is because the PGM2 is JAMA, then it looks a hell of a lot nicer if you're going to play it on a CRT cab or on your CRT-V. Some also may point out that it's been released on lesser hardware compared to the Taito X1, but to be honest with you, I've not noticed any difference when it actually comes to the gameplay. Did tweak it again with a sort of final version that came out 3 years after this game, which I've added some footage at the top there just as an added bonus for you, and guess what? The typo's still there. While this is my favourite version of the King of Fighters, I have to say I do sometimes go back to the Neo Geo version if I want to have a quick game. Why? Because this game kicks my ass. I don't know why, but the Neo Geo version is a hell of a lot easier. I can at least win some games. I feel I've got better skills on it. This one, I struggle. I get my ass kicked. I have definitely saved the best for last. It is Dejutamashi Dejutamashi. We have definitely reached the god tier end of the list of games for the PGM2. What a game. Yes, I did kind of cover this game on the PGM1, but that was the black version, which you would say the difficult version. This one is a slightly different one. This was released for the Chinese and Taiwanese market, which includes a easy version or a sort of white version along with the original version. This is where I probably completely piss off a load of experts on cave games, but I absolutely love the white version, the easy version of the game on this. Yes, I know I love my shooters. Don't get me wrong, I love the black version, I love the difficulty, I love the challenge, But when you have limited time and you just want to enjoy the game, you don't have hours and hours to master every pattern and get everything down, but you just got half an hour and you want to kick some ass, this game is absolutely perfect for you. It's just the right level of challenge where you can actually see and understand the patterns. You're learning things, you're getting further. You've just got that extra little bit of time to feel that you understand exactly what is happening. At the same time, you feel like you're kicking ass. It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination. It's fun, it's challenging. It's the right level of challenge if you've just got 30 minutes of your day, just have a quick shooter. And what it comes down to in the end of the day is, it's fun, isn't it? We play these games to enjoy them, and if you get the right level of challenge, you can actually get immersed in these bullet hells. It's not overwhelming, you actually enjoy the graphics, you enjoy the sounds, you become part of the game. Probably like the experts feel, that's probably how they feel. So I fully respect those 1cc guys that can play Black Label. Fully respect you, but I ain't never gonna get to that level. I just want to enjoy the game, and I fully recommend people in the same situation as me, who've only got half an hour, 40 minutes to play per day. You're gonna love this one. It's a good way to get into shooters. Fantastic game. So there you have it, that's your lot. That's all the PGM2 that I've got. Just missing those two puzzles, but I'm not too arsed about getting them. But I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got something out of it. I hope I didn't irritate you too much by enjoying the white label rather than the black label. But it's just my taste. So at the end of the day, it's just about enjoying these games. So I'll be thanking you, and I'll be seeing you later.